Hello and welcome, Ducks fans. Where and whenever you're watching or listening, this is the Once a Duck podcast, where we bring you up to date with current and former University of Oregon athletes and give you never before heard stories about your favorite teams and moments in Duck history. My name's Nick Cody at Just Follow 61 on Twitter. With me is my co-host Samuel Chiddick-Schmidt at Samuel101TS. And it's been a really tough week, not just for us Ducks, on the court, on the field, but as Americans. And we have to address it just real quick and say, I think there's some things that are very important as we move forward in 2021 that I think we need to get back in terms of respecting each other and our country. And I'll leave it at that, Sam. I don't know about your feelings, but to me, it's really important. I think a lot of the times in our society and the dialogues we have with each other, we don't say it enough that respect is earned. And once you disrespect the country or another person in a certain way, there's a feeling there and a vibe that's bad for everyone. And we all need to check ourselves on it, myself included. And I think we can all do better, Sam.
Nick, I agree with you. There's not a whole lot more I can put on it besides that, man, it's been a long week. And I'm glad we're here doing this, but it's been a long week.
Yeah, and with that long week, we have a lot to wrap up in terms of Oregon sports since our last podcast. The Fiesta Bowl and our predictions did not go as planned. Iowa State came out and pretty much thrashed us. The next day, I was hoping to catch another fantastic women's game and bounce back and get my spirits. And, that game was a tough physical basketball game that Pac-12 referees had a definite impact on, and the Ducks women's team lost a really, really impressive home winning streak to UCLA. And coming in this morning today to play Stanford, number 1 ranked Stanford, that was tough enough. But yesterday, as we saw, kind of a cap to it all. Always a tough trip for men's hoops to go up to Colorado, and second half there, everything just seemed to fall apart. That seems to be kind of a reoccurring theme for the Ducks lately that we need to turn around in 2021. Sam, first starting with football, what are some of the things you took away from that game?
Man, there's sometimes those games, Nick, where you're just so frustrated by everything that happens that it's very, very difficult to reflect back on it in a way that's truly meaningful until much later. It's taken me a while to really reflect on that game and see what was going wrong, see what was actually going right, which there was some stuff. But truthfully, inconsistency was the key, whether it was who was playing at what position, whether it was what was being run, whether it was how Oregon was conducting themselves. Inconsistency was the key. Oregon was inconsistent on defense. In the first half, they couldn't stop anything. In the second half, they only gave up 6 points. Offensively, it looked operational and pretty strong in the first half. Second half, nothing there. And lastly, Nick, we talk about it almost every week. Man, the turnovers was so difficult to watch. 4 turnovers to none. Just a brutal, brutal outing. Oregon can definitely grow from it and definitely learn from it. And I know the program will, but that was not a fun game to be a part of.
No, it wasn't. I think one of the things I said that might stand out in the game, coming up to it weeks leading, is we really might possibly see just how much impact the shortened schedule would have. And Iowa State looked like a team that had twice as much experience. They had been in twice as many unique scenarios on the football field. And you could tell that when they were put in a situation where they needed to convert, they were very confident in what they were going to do and go out and execute, and our team wasn't. And there were some definitely key pieces missing in the game. Some guys that weren't able to play. CJ Verdell not being in there again, hurt obviously, but there's no excuses for some of the things that happened out on the football field besides just inexperience or lack of adjustment. And I don't know which it is yet. It's too soon to tell. We haven't seen enough games, but particularly the special teams errors, those are very, very frustrating when they lead to turnovers, because obviously Iowa State saw something in the film on special teams and saw some weaknesses or some guys that they thought, might mishandle a ball out there, and some spots in the return game where they thought, we might not be secure enough. And they were right. The ball bounced their way a couple times. And when they had it, they had the perfect game plan. They must have watched that Cal film and just decided, we're going to take the air out of the football, and we're going to have long clock eating drives. And by the end of the game, seemed like time of possession was really, really slanted.
Time of possession didn't just seem slanted, Nick. It was 42 minutes and 48 seconds for Iowa
Oof.
State, 17 minutes and 12 seconds for Oregon. That is almost as bad as it can get right there. That's more than double. It's oof. That's a really tough position to be in.
Yeah, and even when the offense did get going early on, it felt that frantic pace, wasn't going to be in our favor. It felt like, man, we needed to just eat the ball up as much as we could. And unfortunately, their scheme defensively made it very hard for our young offensive line to adjust. There's so many times where in the game, they were changing up scheme between going kind of backdoor on blocks, or you just saw it took our guys so long to finally adjust and get into a rhythm of working hard to get those 3 down linemen moved before getting pushed on the linebackers, because the linebackers many times were coming into empty holes and just filling them because the offensive line had already jumped to try and have one guy take over the down guy and the other guy go to linebacker and just guess wrong. And unfortunately, that comes with experience too. And unless you get the reps in practice and the practice time, it's a tough one to adjust to. I know that the zone blocking schemes we ran back in the day kind of made it a little bit easier, but especially with the when you run some man schemes out there to try and change it up or get guys out on the edge, particularly with pulling guys, man, it's tough to know with those linebackers exactly how they're going to flow. And it was really unfortunate, but moving on, I am excited to see how this team does with the full off season and with the recruiting class they have coming in. And I think this season, even though it was a 4-3 season, and I know it left a bitter taste in a lot of Ducks fans' mouths, we're the youngest team in college football. We won a Pac-12 championship. Hat just came in. I love it still. And that USC game was still something I'll remember always, because the team, we saw what they are like when they come out absolutely prepared, sharp, focused, and at the top of their game in terms of energy. And we obviously didn't see that during the Fiesta Bowl. There was a lot going on before and after that game. And in a year, 2021, which hopefully we have some kind of insight to have a full season ahead for the Pac-12 in football. I'm excited to see what this team does moving forward, but there's going to be a lot of pieces to fill, a lot of guys moving on after this season in this game, and particularly on defense, it's going to be really, really, really interesting to see how we step up and fill a lot of those spaces, especially up front.
Well, you mentioned that the Ducks are losing quite a few guys up front. Jordan Scott, Austin Fallew, also losing Diamond Lenore, Nick Pickett on the back end. The Ducks, well, it was understandable they were probably going to lose some guys. There were some people who made decisions to come back who probably didn't have to in the first place last season. So it's understandable that they'd be gone. But a question I have for you, Nick, there are a lot of guys leaving. There are some guys taking those spots too, some that we saw start to shine this season. Is there anybody who's going to be filling in any of those roles that you're excited and look forward to in the next season?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, you have to address it. If you have so many guys coming in early, especially, a lot of guys already currently enrolled in this last recruiting class, you have to talk about Oregon getting its first true 5-star quarterback in Ty Thompson. And, that is going to be a guy, whether he plays right away or not. I know some Duck fans really, really hope he does, but I think regardless, it's going to be really, really important to see how he develops here, because whether it's next year or a couple years down the road, eventually there are huge expectations for this kid. And from what it sounds like, he sounds like a great leader on and off the field. And he even if he doesn't play right away, that push for Tyler Shuck from a young guy, it's going to really mold how this team looks next year, because we're replacing so many guys on defense where our offense is going to have to step up in a major way, and not have those second halves where we just don't adjust and we can't score points or get yards and first downs. We have to be able to have a reliable offense that can put up, like we were early, it looked like we could put up 40 points a game. And I think, next year that's going to be even more important, because the pieces on defense are going to be a lot younger than they were before. There's going to be a lot more focus and emphasis on teams being able to double team Kayvon Thibodeau and Noah Sewell. And, I think a lot of the studs they have coming in on defense, though, I like our chances of kind of filling a lot of those spots.
Well, and one guy that I really like who we mentioned on this show is Brandon Dorlus, somebody who's shown this season what he can really do as in a limited capacity. Let's not forget he was the one that got the hit on the UCLA quarterback that led to the pick six at the end of the first half there. Super athletic guy, super lengthy guy who can really make some things happen up front. That's a guy that I think is going to be a huge difference maker in the next season. If he can step up and continue to play his game, he's going to be somebody who can definitely fill in that role, especially along the defensive line.
Yeah, and with DJ Johnson coming back, that's going to be really, really important because that's more consistency. I know that's kind of a first year, but he had an impressive year and at that position. And with Hunter Campmoyer, moving on, that's going to be really, really important to have guys that already have a familiarity with this offense and all the kind of nuances, especially, when you're coming off kind of that lead blocker halfback position. There's so many nuances, and especially just where to line up at. I mean, there's a lot you have to know in the playbook, and having that guy already there and familiar will be important. And then, I'm excited to see once we can have a healthy, hopefully receiving core week to week, without missing guys here and there. I'm excited to see guys step up, see who really steps up into a true number one role.
It'll be fun to watch for sure. I'm looking forward to this offseason just because of the amount of growth we'll be able to see. Moorhead with the offense for a full offseason will be a lot of fun to see. I'm really excited going into the next season, Nick. I think this team has so much potential, and I am really thrilled to see where it can get. It's not the only Oregon program with a lot of potential, though. There's two others, even though they're both coming off losses that we got to talk about here. There's two other programs that are doing very well in the big picture, and it's Oregon men's basketball and Oregon women's basketball. Nick, well, we both actually just got done watching the men's game. They played at Colorado tonight. We're not able to get the victory. Unfortunately, Oregon fell 79-72 to the Colorado Buffaloes. Nick, what did you see in this ball game? We got to talk a little Oregon basketball now. I know this one's not going to be the most fun to talk about considering we just watched it go down, but what did you see?
Well, hey, I'm still excited for the women's game tomorrow. I'm not letting the road trip to Colorado get me down, because this is a road trip to Colorado. This is early in the season for a Dana Altman team. As we know, this is still a development period, and even though we're getting 4 games into the Pac-12 season now, I believe, it's important to remember that this team needs to be its best and its sharpest late February and into March Madness, especially with the NCAA announcing that all the NCAA tournament teams are going to be in the same location in Indianapolis. That's going to be it's going to be wild. So to have a team that's really peaking at the right time is going to be so important, so vital. I think what we saw in this game against Colorado is a team that came out early and really looked poised to try and change that streak at Colorado. And unfortunately, when you're playing up there at 5,000 feet altitude or whatever, that can wear you out very, very quickly. And this team is really at its best right now when they're putting full court pressure on, when they're able to really attack off high ball screens. And you could tell once that energy was kind of sapped out of them a little bit, they could never really get it back and at least maintain it. So once Colorado came out in that second half and really had a couple big bursts of energy there, it was tough for the Ducks to get back, especially now with the unfortunate injury to N'Faly Dante. The inside presence of the Ducks right now is severely lacking, and that can really help when you go up there and play at that high altitude.
It definitely can. Oregon, well, they struggled to score the basketball a little bit. Everybody except for Chris Duarte, that is. 27 points for him in 39 minutes to go along with 6 boards and an assist. Eugene Omarui, who's been an early leader for the Ducks, 18 points, 6 boards, and 1 assist in 36 minutes. LJ Figueroa, the only other Duck to score in double figures, he had 10 points to go along with 2 boards in 27 minutes. The Ducks, well, they just need more players to produce from more places on the floor. You can't just have 3 guys in double figures and expect to come away with a victory. That's really not going to happen very often. This team is definitely going to get a boost when Will Richardson comes back. I think we all understand that. Him coming back is going to be a new ball handler on the floor, somebody who can distribute to these guys, find open players, which will be huge moving further into the season. But as for now, the Ducks, they just have to be able to score from more places on the floor. Chandler Lawson has 8. That's good, but maybe he needs to be able to get 12, maybe 14 points, establish himself a little bit more inside. He's a big body. He can do that. Amari Hardy, he's a guy who's coming in, a transfer player, but he's got to score more than 6 points. When you're getting those starter minutes, 27 of them, you got to be able to produce more than that. I don't think it's a question of whether or not these Ducks can produce, but it's whether or not they are. I think all these guys are capable. They just need to be putting the ball in the hoop a little more.
Yeah, and as we'll talk about with our very special basketball guest coming up later, Dana Altman's really good at putting players in positions to really accentuate their skills, especially on offense. Right now, we're kind of just trying to find something that will be consistent, something we can go to when we need that clutch guy. And defensively, Duarte is all over the place. He gives you 100% every single night. But we need to find a guy that can really fill that consistency and leadership void of Peyton Pritchard. And it's not just going to be one guy, unfortunately. There's no one guy that walks in and fulfills that right now. And as we're seeing an NBA level from Pritchard, and obviously a lot of Ducks right now in the NBA level, when Dana has time to coach you, you develop so many aspects of your game that just take little bits and pieces of games and turns those into coachable moments. And then that's why I feel like at the end of these seasons, we see these teams really peaking at the right time.
And it makes a whole lot of sense that they do peak at that time, given the way that they are coached, the way they're trained. Dana Altman's system is not an easy one to pick up. Offensively, for it to be productive, you have to be moving off the ball, which not a lot of guys do straight off the jump. It takes a few months for them to really get into the rhythm and flow of that. Also, you have to account for the defensive scheme being another difficult one for Oregon. It's a hard pressing defense that then will sit back and go into a matchup zone. That's not an easy thing to learn by any means, not an easy thing to practice by any means. So it's going to take time. His system requires time. The fact that Oregon has so many transfers means that it's also going to take a little extra time. Folks, be patient. The Ducks will be there. They always are.
Yeah, and I think just one thing, especially in the Colorado game that we saw, when you don't have that big man presence, it's really important that you get penetration off that high ball screen we run almost constantly. And when you don't, and you end up either taking tough shots or turning the ball over. And right now we're having a real hard time getting the ball inside. So we're gonna have to get creative with how we do it. And you're right, you have to do that by moving without the ball, coming off screens and cutting to the basket when people don't expect it. And then on the other end, you have to hope that the guy with the basketball sees you at the right time and gives it to you in a place where you can do something with it. So I think we'll develop that. But yeah, it's hard watching that Colorado game. And it reminded me a lot of watching the women's basketball team against UCLA, because that game just felt like the wind was getting sucked out of both teams at the end. And at the end, it felt like Oregon might have a chance if, some things are called different and the ball bounces a little differently. But at the end, it still felt that same sense of, what a tough week for the Ducks. It just, everything seemed to end at that same note of a little bit of disappointment and frustration, because three teams that are, we know when we see them at their best, it's tough to beat them.
It definitely is. Oregon, the women's team, they played hard against UCLA. They really came out and played one of their better basketball games of the season, especially in the second half when they really had to. It just wasn't enough, unfortunately. Oregon outscored UCLA in the third quarter, 20-19. Outscored them in the fourth quarter, 17-16. Unfortunately, it just wasn't enough to overcome what honestly was just a first quarter that was a problem. Oregon was outscored 20-15 in the first quarter and won every single quarter after that. They came out and really played their brand of basketball. And as you mentioned, a couple bounces go their way, a couple calls go their way. It's a completely different ballgame.
Yeah, and a couple players, Taylor Chavez, particularly, I think that's a couple extra, possessions right there. Sedona Prince, having them available, hopefully later in the season, completely changes a game like that. And I think the Oregon team I saw, at least playing those last three quarters, could have beat that team by double digits. But again, that's a home game. That's a place where the Ducks haven't lost a lot. I think what was it, a 22-game win streak ends. You don't get to see a lot of those. And unfortunately, you have to imagine if we actually had fans now, what kind of, difference that would have made. And so, it's tough, but I can't wait to see this team selling out Matthew Knight Arena again. And when they do, I think we're going to have another really impressive streak to look forward to.
I'm sure that there will be, Nick. We've got a little bit more to talk about in that there was And I don't know if you want to do this before or after the interview. We can edit it out if you don't want to, but there's some pro duck talk to talk about too before we get into our interview.
Hey man, I'm all for product talk. Like I said, Peyton Pritchard the other night, we saw his first game winner for the Boston Celtics. In the same week, we saw him score already a career high of, I think, 22 points. I mean, just talk a little bit right now what you've seen of Peyton Pritchard for the Celtics. I think not just his teammates, but the fan base is already latching onto this guy.
Well, I think he found the perfect situation. I mean, Peyton Pritchard in Boston just makes sense. Number one, he's staying in green and white, so that's a good thing for him. Number two, you also have to realize this is a guy who's coming into a Brad Stevens system that is kind of built for a guy like him. It's pretty ideal. He gets to come off the bench, play some meaningful minutes, and also just be able to do what he does best. That's distribute and score from outside. They don't need him to do any more than that. When you've got a team with guys like Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Marcus Smart, you don't have to do everything. And he's not expected to do everything. He can just come in, play his brand of basketball. If I'm Peyton Pritchard, I'm just stoked that I'm in that situation.
Yeah, and we saw against the Raptors, even if they do have to give him a couple open buckets, he'll put him down, and the entire bench is excited to see that guy scoring threes from deep. So that means a lot. That means you can see the guys understand that he's a guy that puts in the work, and they're excited to see the rook go out there and evolve as a player. And it's very, very interesting to see, even when he might be, not having a lot of looks offensively. Again, the tip-ins, just the really aggressive nature that he has on ball defense. I mean, fantastic. When you hear the refs or the announcers start talking about a guy as he goes into the game as a rookie, and they're talking about it a lot more than just his scoring. I mean, what a well-rounded basketball player and a great representative of Oregon he's been so far. It's been really, really fun to watch him. And, in the Raptors game, even though the Raptors don't look great this year, Chris Boucher, I mean, wow. Oh, it's awesome to watch him develop. I mean, I wish we could get that a full starting five of Ducks, pro Ducks right now, because they'd be able to compete with just about any school out there.
There are definitely some really talented guys around the league that are products. Dylan Brooks, obviously, playing very, very well in Memphis. Although he did just give up a game winner to LeBron James. I think you get to enter a fraternity of guys that's happened to. Pretty sure just about most players in the league at this point. Also, you've got guys like Troy Brown in Washington playing for a team that's struggling, but playing pretty well in his own right. You've also got just so much talent around the NBA, so much of it coming from Oregon. It's so fun to see. Not to mention the number of guys that are going to be playing in the NFL playoffs here coming up this week. I know too many for us to be able to mention them all.
Yeah, and well, even beyond the NBA, the WNBA, and as we'll talk about, the Canadian Basketball League, there's Ducks everywhere. There's Ducks overseas, and we're proud of them all, man. It's been really exciting, man. Of all the pro Ducks, though, we would be very, very, very silly not to mention the Rookie of the Year performance that Justin Herbert has put up in the NFL. Even though they didn't retain their coach and Anthony Lynn, that's got to be one of the most coveted head coaching positions right now, just because of the talent that Herbert's displayed this year. And man, it sure makes you wish we utilized him completely in an offensive system with consistent coaching around him for all 4 years, because just who knew that he would be able to just be an elite tier quarterback already.
I mean, he's come out and been absolutely outstanding, and that's $1. Even though we didn't use it in the normal way of putting it, I guess, Nick, that is technically $1 right there. Remind me, I have to send that to you later tonight. But Herbert has been outstanding. He's played some really good football this year. It's been impressive to see him and see what he's been able to do there. They have a situation where they do need a head coach, but if the right guy comes in for him, they're going to be very successful for a long time.
Yeah, and you talk about the right guy, and who knows who that's going to be. I'm, personally, hoping for the Kansas City offensive coordinator. That would be fantastic. But who knows, whoever it is, Justin's probably going to still go out and perform just the way the offensive talent they had there, even in spite of some of the blocking issues they had. And the guys that they were missing due to injury, he continually went out there and performed and put it up with guys that were XFL players this season. Their tight end is a guy who I ended up seeing in his last XFL game, or in Seattle. So pretty wild. And you have no idea what's to come next year in the NFL. But I do know that people are looking forward to what Justin Herbert does next.
And do you know what I know, Nick? We have a great guest coming up.
That we do. I'm very excited to introduce him to you. He is, in my mind, the foundation of the Dana Altman basketball teams of the Oregon era. With us now, Dana Altman's first recruit, which helped usher in the new era of Oregon basketball we see today, Johnathan Loyd. Johnathan, when you came into the program, I was a junior. I was going into the Rose Bowl, or the national title game, I believe, at the time. Everything for the football team was at its peak high in terms of hype. But at the basketball side, it was like, wow, we're having our first new coach in a while, and no one knew what to expect. What was it like coming in as the first recruit for the new era of the Ducks, and transitioning from Matt Court to Matthew Knight Arena?
Coming in as the first recruit, I felt like it was an honor, because right when Coach Altman got the job, he immediately called me like the next day. So that made me feel good that, a coach really wanted me that bad. And coming in, it was a little bit of an adjustment, because for the first 4 weeks of summer, I was the only freshman. So I was hanging out with all the football players, and then I'd be on my own time and schedule with the basketball stuff. So it was a little bit of adjustment until Nick Lucenti got there, and then me and him were able to tackle that together. And then the transition was special. We didn't leave Matt Court on the right note. We lost to Arizona State that weekend. But then the next weekend came in, and it was, a big extravaganza. We had puddles coming down from the rafters, and we beat USC for the first game in Matt Knight. So, I felt like it was a special time, and it felt like it was the beginning of something special.
Before you even come to Oregon, Johnathan, you have a coach who's recruiting you to a school that he's new at. How is Dana Altman selling you on coming to Oregon at the time, and what went into that decision to become a Duck?
So honestly, I wanted to go to Oregon ever since I was a freshman in high school. I saw Oregon beat UNLV in the Sweet 16. So UNLV didn't really recruit me that hard. So, as the competitor I was, I'm going to be like those two little guards, Aaron Brooks and Tawan Porter. I'm going to be the next one to come and beat y'all too. So it just all worked into my favor. Coach Altman happened to get the job. I was, getting recruited, and then I wasn't. And then it really picked up after my senior season. So to have Coach Altman get that job was a blessing. It was like it was meant to be. So when I came on the visit, I got to meet Tawan, and, the guys were just so cool with me. And of course we went out and, got to see the nightlife a little bit, and it was sold from there.
Yeah, man, you say Aaron Brooks and TP, and man, that just takes me back, because those were the first basketball teams I remember. That 2017 especially, I was thinking, man, that was when I was getting recruited as a Duck. So I came in just already loving that basketball team and thinking, right, man, what a special guy to watch. Even when he was, with the Rockets for a while, one of those guys that's a true throwback. And yeah, when you came in, you reminded me of him right away. So that first season, you're transitioning from Matt Court, which had, all the fan nostalgia. People had all their memories there. People used to remember an energy there. I remember it took a little while to get it going at Matthew Knight Arena at the same level. When did you really know that Oregon had picked it up to that level where you knew the basketball team was in good hands when you left?
So to piggyback off that, when we were in Matt Court, we didn't even sell the place out. We might have got to the most like 5,000, but it was so special. And the gym was shaking, and, I still have a couple good memories in there, and we didn't even sell the place out. So after we got to Matt Knight, I would say the fault when we played in the CBI my freshman year, and we had such a good following over that Christmas break, I felt like, okay, no, not Christmas break. I'm tripping. It was in between winter term and spring term. So a lot of students weren't there, but our following was crazy. Like we had the gym rocking. So that was the point where I was like, whoa, like we're gonna have something special here because the fans just love us so much. So as long as we as a team buy in to what Coach Altman is saying, you know, the sky is the limit for us.
Johnathan, that freshman season, you did what's not very usual for a freshman. You played in every single game. You actually started 16 of them. What was it like being such a young guy and being thrown into the fire like that?
You know, I'm not going to lie. I thought I was ready, but I was not ready, man. I was not ready. Coach Altman did show some faith in me, but we had a great point guard in Malcolm Armstead. But I don't know, there was a little bit of turmoil and he ended up transferring. But, you know, I took a lot of his advice. Malcolm was special for me in terms of somebody that had been there, had done it, and he kind of took me under his wing. So as I was starting, he would come off the bench and pick us right back up. So all I would try to do is hold it down until he came in. And then when we played together, he made it much easier for me. So I know looking back, just even during the time, I wasn't ready, even though I thought I was.
Now, one of the things that we previously asked our last multi-sport athlete guest, Jordan Kent, is before we get into that football experience for you, one of the things we asked him previously is if there was one teammate you could take from one sport at Oregon when you were there and bring them onto another team, who would it be and why? And I'd love to know your answer.
Okay. I'm gonna give you two. Okay, one is EJ Singler. You know, he had a football background and he just had, you know, the heart of a lion. You know, me and him would compete a lot. So EJ is one I know could go over there and do something. And two, Elgin Cook. His athleticism is just second to none. So explosive, so strong. So, and, you know, he's a good 6'6", 230. So, you know, he could definitely go out there and compete as well.
Johnathan, I can tend to be a little bit of a numbers guy sometimes. I love going through, looking at box scores and all that stuff, just seeing what there is to offer. One thing that I noticed looking at your stats from over 4 years at Oregon is every single year you improved. Everything got better year by year. What goes into the off-season regiment, during the season practices? What kind of effort and time did you put toward becoming a better player every single year at Oregon?
I put in a lot of work. And each year, like you said, I improved, but I put more work in each year. You feel me? Because I realized I got a little hungry. Like freshman year, I was working, but I could do more. Sophomore year, I tasted a little bit of glory and then had some pitfalls. I could put more work in. Junior year was the year where I had the most ups and downs because I got inside my own head. You know, I had a kind of a confidence issue. And confidence is the most important thing when it comes to basketball to me, especially at that level. Like what separates one person from another, how confident they are in their ability. So my junior year, I kind of got down on myself mentally. And then I kept working and dug myself out of that hole. And then senior year, I just felt like you already know what you got to do. It's on your shoulders. So let's work.
Yeah, and the work you put in, not only on the basketball field, but the football field stood out. I remember reading that Keenan Lowe actually reached out to you to ask you, you know, with your skills and previous talents playing high school football, you know, would you come out for the football team? And what was that process like? And what was it like putting in that extra work to go in and play a sport that, you know, you hadn't played in years?
Yeah. K-Lo was my dog. So he hit me during the season and was just kind of planting the seed. During the basketball season, he just was like, would you come play? He was like, man, we could be on the same team. Like, and I was like, that dude, it sounds intriguing. So he was like, yeah, just think about it. And then Pac-12 tournament comes around. We lose to UCLA. And then the coaches, the football coaches, Coach Pelham, Coach Lubick, tight end coach. What was the tight end's coach
Coach
name?
Oz.
Oz, my dog. He used to always do this, right?
Yep.
Coach Oz, yeah. So they all approached me and Coach Frost, and they was just, what do you think? I know you talked to Keenan a little bit. He was like, I'm definitely interested, but we're still gonna go to the tournament, so my mind is on basketball. He was like, yeah, of course, just let us know after the season. So the season ended. We lost to Wisconsin, and that next Monday or Tuesday, I came out to spring practice and just watched, and I got that itch. I was like, ooh, and Eric Dargan saw me, and he was like, you're not ready for this. So then the competitive nature turned on immediately. He's like, I could do this. And then Coach Lubick told me to wait a week and think it over. Coach Helfrich the same. And I finally was just like, Coach, I want to do this. I want to see if I could, compete at this level. So that was the process.
Johnathan, I've got a couple of football questions for you, but before I jump into that, I do have to address something you just mentioned. You mentioned you were getting ready for the NCAA tournament. You talk about your experience in that. It's such a story tournament, something that's so big every single year. What is that process like? Number one, working up all year, knowing that that's the end goal, is to be in that tournament for a chance to play for a championship. And what is it like, especially when you're waiting for the seeding, just sitting there knowing that eventually your name's going to be announced and you get to see who you're going to play in this big tournament? What's that whole experience like? So
you always have an end goal, right? No matter what, you want to win your conference tournament, then we can go to the tournament. So it's kind of in that order. So it's really one game at a time. You try not to think about the tournament until it gets closer. Then you're like, what do we have to do to ensure that we get into that tournament? So that's kind of around like February. You're kind of like, wait, is it February? Like January, February. Yeah, you're kind of decided. You're kind of figuring out what do we have to do to make sure that we're in that tournament. So like, for instance, my senior year, we kind of hit conference play and had a dip, right? So it was immediately, hey, we gotta at least get to 20 wins in order to even think about the tournament. So immediately it was, hey, we're not losing another regular season game. That's what I said my senior year. Hey, we beat Oregon State, and I said this is the start of a run, so we can ensure our tournament seed, And then waiting for the tournament seed, I think you kind of have an idea if you're going to make it or not before that happens, right? So every time we're waiting for it on Selection Sunday, it's more of what number are we going to be?
Yeah, definitely. How do you feel with everything that the NCAA has put into this year, thinking and planning forward to, instead of, coming off last year, which, the entire tournament is canceled, trying to move everything to one location in Indianapolis? Like, how do you feel about that? What do you think you'd have to do to, I guess, prepare differently for yourself mentally? Because, with the NCAA tournament and the way it's broken up into the brackets and the regions, you had to really prepare yourself to travel, 2, possibly 3 times a week. Right. What do you think it would be like, and the changes that players would have to endure for this year's tournament?
I think it would be similar to what the NBA went through. You have to be ready to, not see people that you see regularly. You have to be ready to see opposing teams and try to keep that competitive edge. And then, yeah, just being away, living in that type of environment. You can't get in trouble. You probably gonna have to, quarantine and all that stuff. So it takes a lot of discipline and a lot of mental fortitude in order to get through something like that. So that's I think that's what it would take.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're being joined by former Duck, both on the basketball and football side of things, Johnathan Loyd. Johnathan, I've got something sitting next to me that I think you have one of as well somewhere. It's a pretty cool thing, and it's one of these. It's a Rose Bowl championship hat. You were able to earn one of these the year you played football. The season you came in was a pretty special one. that 2014 year. Talk about what it was like joining the program and then going on the run that you did that season.
It was special, man. K-Lo told me before the season that this was the year, you know. So if you ever decided to play, this is a great time, you know. So, you know, Marcus was crazy quarterback, man. I quick story about Marcus. I remember one time I was running a route and the sun got into my eyes, and I was like, "Oh man, please catch the ball!" And I just stuck my hands out and the ball hit me right in the hands, man. I was like, that's when I lost. I was like, okay, this guy's special. He's got it. He's best quarterback I've ever seen, you know, all of that type of stuff. So, but you know, no, that year was special though. That year was definitely special. I felt like a professional football player, the way I was treated, places I went, you know, just the treatment that we got around the school. I definitely could tell a difference that Oregon was a football school, you know. So it was love though. It was definitely love.
So yeah, I'm going to beat Sam to the question on this because I know he's wondering, as a guy that's been in both the football and basketball programs, people are often wondering who gets the better gear. And, you know, even more so, you know, with as much additional, I try and stress this to people. Yeah, basketball, you need a lot of uniforms, but you don't get to have a lot of those, and you need a lot of shoes. But in football, you just need so much friggin' equipment. How much different is it? And which do you have more of now, football equipment from your days or basketball equipment?
I would say that football was a little more lenient in what they were giving out, because there was just so many players that they didn't have to be as tight with it. I would say I definitely have more basketball stuff because 4 years to 1, but 1 year of football definitely outweighed 1 year of basketball. For sure.
Johnathan, usually going into an interview, I would go back, look at some guys' tape or whatever to get a little bit of an idea of who they were. That's something I didn't have to worry about with you. I remember seeing all of those games, and one thing that comes to my mind is, I believe it was the Utah game. You actually return a punt. It would have been the second of the year, but there was a holding on that play. When you're going back into that huddle afterwards and you're saying, man, who was that? What happened on that play? What's your reaction after you think you're in the end zone and then you look back and you see that yellow on the turf?
Oh man, I was kind of shocked, but the punt return was against Colorado.
Colorado, excuse me, thank you.
I hate that you brought up the Utah joint because that's the one that, you know, the punter got me on that one. Oh. I didn't want to say it. Yeah, the punter shoelace tackled me against Utah. I'm gonna just get it out there. He got me. Good job. But yeah, the Colorado one. Yeah, I ran it in. We were all celebrating, and then I was like, it kind of like died down in the stadium, right? So I kind of was like, what's going on, you know? And then I saw the flag or whatever, and then I saw who it was. And bro, Dior Mathis was like, my bad, bro, my bad. Like, I didn't mean to. And then they had me re-kick it, or then they re-kicked it. And they re-kicked it. We only had 10 people on the field. So it was like, I didn't even get a fair shot to try to run it back. So it hurt. It definitely hurt, because that's all I wanted to do that year was to run a punt return back. And that's why both of those hurt so much, because I had my goal was in arm's reach, and one of them I messed up and another one somebody else messed up. So it is what it is.
Well, to take you back to a better memory, how was it like to score your very first touchdown against Wyoming in September? What's it like, you know, as an offensive lineman? I was always one of those guys. I'll be the first one down there, pick you up and celebrate with you. But that's only because I was that guy in my own head, like, oh man, I wish I was the guy scoring the touchdowns. Like, if one of those guys just fumbled one of these days, I'm going to be down there to pick it up first just because I'm hustling. So what's it like, especially in Austin, you know, like, what's that energy like getting in the end zone?
Man, I felt like every single fan was just coursing through my body. Like, I just felt so electric, and I didn't know what to do. Like, if you look back, like, I just screamed, And then, like, I think Coronis came over and tried to throw me up, but I was like, I forgot to jump. So it was just like a halfway throw up. And then I was like, dang, I missed my opportunity. I always wanted to do that. But yeah, it was crazy. Like, I didn't know what to do. I just screamed, and then I just was kind of like, all right, what now? Like, what do I do? It was love, though. I had so much fun playing football.
Well, Johnathan, back in your college days, you played basketball, you played football. Now, I don't know if people know this or not, you're still tearing it up. I did spend a good portion of yesterday looking at some National Basketball League of Canada highlights just so I could see you out there balling. And you've been playing pretty well before they had to shut everything down. You were balling 18 points a game casually, 4 rebounds, even though you're probably not one of the taller players out there most of the time, as well as 7 assists. What's the opportunity to play basketball up in Canada been like for you? And what's it been like being a member of the Island Storm?
Oh man, it was a blessing, you know, because I was kind of having a little trouble getting over there. But then once I got there, I kind of erupted. So it's been a blessing. You know, I get to still play the sport that I love, that I've been playing since I can remember. This is the stuff that I dreamed of. You know, it might not be the NBA, but I still get to hoop and play high level basketball. So, you know, what else can you ask for?
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I can relate to that. I remember trying to go up to the Canadian Football League and try and get a start there, and just how different it was. I mean, you really had to have a passion for the game to come out as an import player and, you know, adjust to a new country and being on the road all the time technically. But moving forward now, you know, you see the Ducks program now with Peyton Pritchard just graduating, and consistently it seems year by year the Ducks are putting, you know, 1-year guys into the NBA. What do you think about Coach Altman now, especially with the players that he's getting in and developing in just these 1 years?
I think Coach Altman has learned to play to his players' strengths. You know, so like Peyton, you know, great 3-point shooter, great ball handler. So Coach Altman was bringing him off picks, and Coach Altman was letting him shoot that 3. You know, Dylan Brooks, another one. You know, somebody that had extreme passion for the game. So Coach Altman used to just kind of let him play. Like, hey, I don't want to take nothing from you. You got to go get it. You know, he does a great job of attacking players' weaknesses and turning them into strengths. For example, Elgin Cook, he wasn't necessarily a 3-point shooter when he came to us, but when he left, he was shooting that tray ball like it was nothing. And now overseas, he's got a wet ball, you know. So yeah, he has a good staff around him. Stubbs and Miniga and McKenna, you know, they're great recruiters. They're great player developers. And Josh Jameson does a great job of putting people in place to succeed. So he has everything he needs.
Johnathan, one thing that's definitely changed since you played at Oregon, the women's program has absolutely blown up. They are now just as big as the men's program and get just as much attention. From how the women's program was when you were there, a program that really didn't draw very much, didn't get a lot of attention, to where they are now, how is that growth looked to you as somebody who's seen the U of O from afar?
Oh, I love it. Like, anything Oregon, I'm cheering for them. I've never had a team to cheer for growing up because I was from Vegas. So all we had was UNLV. So, like, that's who I was cheering for, but I wasn't invested, you know. Now I'm invested. So when I seen Oregon women's basketball start to make their ascent, I was beyond ecstatic. And then once I seen Sabrina was the best girl player there is, you know, I was just my favorite memory from watching the girls was when they played against that Team USA and got the dub. I was bragging for multiple weeks. Like, hey, did you see the Oregon girls? Like, that was special. I don't think that's ever happened before. And Sabrina led the team, and it was just amazing to me.
Yeah, I got to catch the women's basketball team with Sabrina only once up here in the Seattle area, but a game I did get to catch last year was Peyton Pritchard getting to to shut down an overtime game against UW, and that was a hostile environment, man. Yeah, when he hit the game winner. Yeah. Right in front of Brandon Roy too, man. It was insane because I was one of maybe 4 Ducks fans in the building. It felt like the whole game, scrapping back and forth, and people are talking crap, and man, just kept quiet, knowing at the very end, Ducks had all that swag and that confidence, and I knew Peyton owned Seattle. What was that road place that you felt even more comfortable than your home gym?
Oh, that's a good one. More comfortable. Let me think. I'll probably say I would probably have to say USC. I liked their gym. It was similar to ours. You know, it was brand new, big, and I don't know. I always had a lot of my family's from LA too, so I felt different in the USC gym. So I'll probably have to say USC.
Well, Johnathan, we don't want to keep you too much longer. We know you got a lot to get to. The last thing I'll ask you is, what is it you look forward to when you come back to Eugene? Before the interview started, I mentioned that I remember seeing you on the sidelines of a football game when you came back, and just how excited I was as somebody who grew up watching you play to see you there. What's something that you look forward to when you come back to Eugene?
So for about, I think, 9 years straight, I came back to Eugene for the Oregon basketball camp. So I always look forward to coming back and passing on my basketball knowledge to all of the kids that came to the camp. That's one thing that I will try to forever always do, as long as it's going. I don't know about this COVID stuff, but as long as that camp is going, I'm going to be there. Besides that, I just love coming back and feeling the atmosphere, because there's so much love in Eugene and how much support the people have for the school and the sports. So just being able to go around and talk to people and just spread love, you know. I'm all about positive vibes, and there's nothing but that in Eugene.
Absolutely. And yeah, man, what a great note to end on. I've got one last question for you before we finally let you go. And it is just about that. I mean, I remember the first time I actually went to Eugene, it was for a high school basketball camp. And, you know, we're staying there a couple nights on campus. That was the first time I got to really see just the vibes of the campus. And I think that was like 2005, 2006, just forever ago now, obviously. But what is one just big memory of the fan base or the vibes in Eugene that just reminded you, and still to this day, that that's home for all Ducks?
I'll tell you, junior year, Dominic Artis got hurt. He was a starting point guard, so I filled in for him. And there was a little lag. I think we might have went 0-4 with me starting. Well, no, we won a game, and then we lost 4 straight. And, you know, I was struggling, you know, 0 points, 2 points, 4 turns, something like that. And any other place, I feel like the fans would have been tripping, you know, like, hey, pick it up, Loyd, like Altman bashing him in the paper or whatever. But every fan was just, hey, you're going to figure this out. You got this. You're great. You know, trying to instill confidence in me and just showing me support, even at a time when I was down. Like, I was in the locker rooms beating myself up, man. Like, just everybody was leaving, and I was sitting there with my head in my hands. And you know, the fans was always there to just give me support and to try to lift me up. So that's something that I will forever remember. Something that sticks with me. You know, Eugene is definitely home for me. Not second home, none of that. It's home. So that always will stick out in my mind.
Well, Johnathan Loyd, thank you for joining us, and thank you for helping elevate Oregon to the platform that it is, not only on the basketball court, but on the football field in your own special way. And, you know, thanks for reminding us why Eugene is the perfect place to say, once a Duck, always a Duck.
Sir, thanks for having me, y'all. Appreciate you.
Anytime. We'll have to get you back on in the future for sure.
Okay,
awesome.
We could dive into it a little deeper.
Definitely.
All
Definitely. Right. Wow. Well, last year around this time in January, we had another multi-sport athlete who was a fantastic guest. And yeah, Johnathan Loyd was just as good, if not better. What did you think first and foremost, Sam?
Nick, Johnathan Loyd's a guy I grew up watching on the basketball court, a guy I wanted to emulate for a long time. So obviously I couldn't be more excited that we were able to talk to him, get him on here. That was just so much fun.
Yeah, I think you were so excited, and so was I, that we both went one slip for the swear jar. I know we've definitely determined that the A word. I'm not gonna say it. We don't need that. I'll take your Venmo, but I've got our $3 right here. We go ahead and add those to our swear jar, and we've determined our swear jar. If you guys can go ahead and find anything else that you want to add on our swear jar, and we agree on, and the fans call out or find anything we miss, we will add an additional $5 to the swear jar, and that goes directly towards fan giveaways. So goes right back to you. If you pay attention, you catch us saying, well, I'll say it right here, absolutely. If you hear that word again from here on out, please let us know in the comments or on Twitter. You can follow us at Once a Duck on Instagram, Twitter. Look us up anywhere. Make sure you're following. Make sure you're subscribed on SoundCloud and YouTube. And, go ahead and give that not just a like, but a share. That helps us out and helps other Duck fans find us. And hopefully everyone listening, contributing can get that swear jar full here pretty soon. Sam, what else do you think we need to make sure right now is certified to go in the swear jar? Right now, we have the A word, we have the CW word. What else do we determine, and what will we continue to add?
Nick, you expect me to remember this right now? We just had this great interview with Johnathan Loyd, and now you're asking me to remember what's in the swear jar? I thought we were just trying to get through the show all right after that. I thought we were just trying to see if we could survive the rest of this next 5 to 10 minutes of broadcasting after having such a great interview. Now you're expecting me to remember every single thing that we have in that swear jar? How dare you?
Well, I just wanted one of the ideas that you might have thought stuck out to you, but I know that you probably honestly just don't want to owe me any more money at this point.
More or less.
But I understand, and we've got a big game coming up today before noon with number 1 ranked Stanford for our women's basketball team. And we've got to talk about and preview that, and hopefully people are listening to the show right now before that tips off. And even if you're not, we hope you go back and you give it a watch on replay on Pac-12 Network sometime, because it's going to be a great game. Sam, what are you predicting for this one?
Man, this is going to be such a fun ball game. Number 11, Oregon, 8-1, 6-1 in conference. At number 1, Stanford, 9-0, 6-0 in conference. This game, the 11:30 tip-off, should be on just about 2.5 hours after this episode comes out on Friday.
Yeah,
it is hard.
But also, the important thing is it's not even in Stanford's home stadium. This is kind of you can't call it a neutral site game because it's in Santa Clara, but it's definitely unusual to be playing a game because of COVID restrictions right now outside of Stanford's home stadium.
Well, they're not even playing in their home city right now. They're playing in Santa Cruz. They're completely not. They're not even in the Stanford Palo Alto area right now. The Cardinal are going to have it. This almost is a neutral site game with where they're playing it. But you know what? Stanford is a really good team, but I can't pick against my Ducks. I think Oregon's going to go in, get an upset victory, 84-76. I think the Ducks have a big statement victory here. You know what? I have the O on my chest for a reason right here. I have 2 of the Ducks.
Yeah, and even though we've been homers all season, we've been this second season of our podcast, we've been wrong our fair share of times, and I'm okay with that. I'm going to go a little bit higher scoring game because I think the Ducks, when these ladies shoot, oh my God, it makes me embarrassed for my shooting technique from outside, man. When these girls are hitting threes, it's unstoppable. And, if they go down and they like the gym they're playing in, I really like this team to light up the scoreboard. So let's go 89 Duckies, Trees 82.
Well, Nick, we've got our predictions in. Putting this one out early on a Friday. Anything you have to tell everybody before they go about the rest of their day and into their weekend?
No, man, I just hope I hope everyone moving forward, positive vibes going forward here on 2021. I hope everything gets better, not just for the Duckies, but everyone in this country right now. And I'm really excited for what's to come, and we can all just band together right now and really, really enjoy our sports teams and be thankful for everything that they're sacrificing right now to go out and perform and really give us something to distract from everything going on in the world.
Nick, you could not be any more correct about that. Sports is a getaway, and I will be more than happy to use it as such this weekend. It's going to be a fun one. A lot of pro ducks to watch on the hardwood, a lot of pro ducks to watch out on the field. It's going to be a fun weekend. Go Ducks.
Yep. Go Ducks. Once a duck, always a duck. And we hope you come back and join us again next week.